Good morning. Good morning. What's happening, family? Welcome to the show. It is Michelle Bryant here, WNOV, 860 AM, 106.5 FM. I see you over there playing with the thing,
No,
Clark. I
I
see
gotta
you.
get it just
I
right.
see you. I see you playing with the camera. You are listening to Say Something Real. And for folks that were listening yesterday, guess who got a new hat? Guess who got a new hat? Not oh, oh, put the camera on Clark. Put the camera on Clark. Devo, come look at this boy hat.
In honor of a couple people, Keon, Keon will wear something like this.
Oh my God!
Give a shout out to my homie
Did you really? Look at this hat, man. Look at this hat.
Talk about my hat yesterday, talking about dust ball. So I had to pull out you understand me.
That is fire.
Pull out you understand me. Huh?
We got the king of spades on the side. Oh my God.
Music notes and everything.
Yeah. You showed out.
Can I get that hat, man?
It's been burnt.
Yeah.
Man, that's where we pick up that piece at.
Actually, I had this made.
That's why I said where you pick up this piece at.
Sterling.
Okay.
Sterling made this hat for me about 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, that's fire. Let me see the other side.
Oh
yeah. Okay.
Can I borrow that,
Okay.
Small fee. I do rentals. No, I ain't gonna wear it all day.
No,
He just took off his skull cap. He had on a brand new skull cap too, though.
I think you need to keep that. Keep that one
No,
on.
actually, I had my skull cap in the closet.
In the where?
See, in the closet.
The closet.
Yeah. Now, this hat right here. This hat right here has meaning to it.
I look good in that hat.
Yeah,
I really
go and put it
would.
on.
No, I can't put it on right now.
Yeah, put it on right now.
I can't put it on
You
right
understand?
now.
So you got to turn it to the right a little bit. Just a little dip.
Yeah, because I
little
like
dip.
the short brim on it.
Yeah.
That's nice, man.
Or you can holler at my people.
I like the
and I can
stitching.
get one made
Like the
for you.
stitching. You so we got the matchsticks and the card. Because who was that? DL got a couple hats with matchsticks and cards in them. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I'm zooming in on you, man.
You understand me?
Yeah.
Which camera? This one right here?
Turn to the side. Turn to the side.
to the
so they can
side,
see it
man.
all.
Lean to the side.
No, you too far back.
No, which one?
Just
This one
turn.
right here?
Yeah, just turn.
Lean to the side, but you can't speed through 2 miles per hour, so everybody sees you.
I ain't mad at you, player. That's a nice piece, man.
I like
Oh
that.
yeah, you shut down the little
You
conversation this
understand me?
morning.
Yeah,
Okay.
I may have
yabba,
to-
a dabba, a do.
Yeah. I may have to get a personal piece made.
Yeah. Hey, man, he the truth. So, with these hats and things like that, man, this man is
Local?
awesome. Yeah, Sterling.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I might have to
Why
put
did I
one of
not-
them bands
Yeah,
around my
Sterling
hat.
the
So
truth.
a couple of
Yeah,
hats. I
Sterling
use.
the truth.
I like that band around it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He asked.
Yeah, I like when they can burn him because he burnt that. He
Yeah.
put like actual
created
fire
it
on
for
that
me.
hat.
He created it for me for my birthday. It came in a box. Yeah, man, this cat.
Yeah, he put fire on that hat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You shut down some
Yeah.
of it
You
today.
understand me?
We appreciate what's with the pinky finger in the air.
I don't know. I just feel like since I got this hat on, I gotta put my-
You know what? Let me do this real
Put
quick
my
before
pinky up.
I go to Clark, who is back fresh off the plane.
Woo-hoo!
Um,
What up, boy?
You held up the little pinky
You
finger,
understand me?
looking like
Yeah.
a PIMP.
You understand me?
And
You
I just got to
heard?
say this real quick because I forgot about it the other day. So there are a lot of people that listen to Sirius XM, Urban View. You know who Karen Hunter is on that station. Why did I not know that the book Pimpology
Mm-hmm.
with Pimpin' Ken,
Yeah.
Karen Hunter wrote that book?
Did she?
I'm like, Karen Hunter, Professor Karen
She
Hunter.
wrote that. Wow.
Without somebody, it came up in the conversation. Oh no, she mentioned it on her show because she said she had just got a fat royalty check from that book, and she said, "Y'all still buying that book?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Wait a minute, no, I refuse to believe it."
That's crazy.
Karen Hunter was not the writer on that book, but she was. And I gotta go back and see when Pimpology came out.
That was
I
like
remember
2000
when
something.
Ken was selling the book in barbershop.
Yeah.
He was walking down in First Impression
Yeah.
with his fly outfit on and some house shoes,
Come on, man.
selling the
Buy
book.
it, man. Come on, man. Buy it, man. Come on, man.
And I'm just like, you have got to be freaking kidding
That's
me.
crazy.
But if you look on the cover, it says the 48 laws.
Power. No,
Hang on, wait.
48 laws of
Get this out of here. Move. The 48 laws of the game. Pimpology, Pimpin' Ken with Karen Hunter. Oh my God. I almost passed out. I would have never put her with that. But Karen is, you know, she versatile, she's slick, she got some extra on her. And so for people that are Karen Hunter fans, she has a Milwaukee connection in that was one of her books. And she literally said just last week on her show that she was still getting royalties off that book. So I did that. Let me say good morning, Clark Kent.
Who you with?
My man back in fresh from Vegas. How was your trip, fam?
Good.
So did we win some money?
You know what? I didn't even gamble. I didn't go to no
Wait,
machines.
what?
I didn't go to no machines. No.
What?
It was all over the place in the grocery stores, in the little mini market, the little
What'd you
ice
say?
cream parlor.
You ain't gotta go to the casino.
No,
You can just gamble anywhere.
Anywhere.
Gas station.
Gas station. Donut shop.
Right.
Look,
Dunkin' Donuts had a machine in it.
I tell people all the time when we was in Vegas and we was in the airport waiting for our flight to leave. Keisha was gonna play some slots. I said, girl, nobody with no money in the airport. Cause slot machines. We get back to Milwaukee 1 week later. The news come on. This woman won $1 million in the airport slot machine. Keisha was like, you made me miss my money listening to you. I said, well, you should have been listening to me then.
Yeah.
But
in that airport.
well, what did y'all do though, man?
You know, I got with the family, you know, both sides of the family, you know, like I said, I'm a Tyler and the Bronx, so they all like the same. So we just met up, had a good time, and you know, I just got.
So it was an informal family kickback reunion, or
well, you know, they had already cremated them, so a lot of people came from out of town.
Yeah, because you were there for a funeral.
Yeah, I went there for a funeral.
Okay.
So you know, so everybody had a good time. You know, I got to meet some family I ain't never met. So
really,
yeah. So I didn't know I had that many people from California, Florida, stuff like that.
Well, I'm glad you got. You know, I just got a call 2 days ago. My first cousin's wife passed in Houston. I think, see, now I got to remember if they're in Houston or Dallas. They in Houston, I think. And just passed. He said she was sitting at the table. He was having dinner. She slumped over, and it was a wrap. It was a wrap.
She had a heart attack?
Basically, it seems like right now we still waiting to find out exactly what was the cause of death because she just died 2 days ago. But she slumped over
at the dinner table.
Lord, and gone. Man, but you know the crazy part. So like one of my cousins from Jersey called me to say, "Hey, Hal lost his wife, man." And we all like, okay, you know, so everybody trying to figure out who's gonna go out. But this is the sad part. Like, I've talked to them, but I've never met her before in my life. Because he moved away. Everybody moved, everybody doing their thing, nobody makes time. The only time you see somebody is for a funeral. And the only funerals we had were during COVID. And so nobody got together for funerals. So it's just so crazy how you do not know your family like we used to.
That's crazy.
And so I encourage, that's one thing when we were doing Keisha's mom's obituary, they had their family reunion pictures from just about every, because I think they did theirs every other year. So you see all them t-shirts. I was teasing her mom one time. I was packing some stuff up for her, and I was just going through all the family reunion t-shirts. And I mean, they must have had like 15 of them over the years. So, and they had a big family. But the ability to like go see, that's what I appreciate about Keon too. Because when I say that Joker would find out he had folks down, and I don't care where they were, he'll get to know them, call them, hey, yeah, you know what? I'm coming down this weekend. And he'll send me a picture sitting on their porch. I'm like, Keon,
I think
where you at? He like, yeah, man, I'm with my family, man, with my folks. He would get in that car and or that truck and be gone. So yeah, I appreciate folks that make that effort. So you good? You rested? You ready to get
Yeah,
back?
yeah, I'm ready to get back. Ready to
Because
work.
you came in talking slick this morning.
I ain't talking slick.
Oh no, you came
I
in
just,
talking slick,
I just
and
said,
I'm like,
I
he,
mean,
he,
You want that pressure?
we gonna try it again this week.
You want
If
that
don't
pressure?
nobody derail you off your subject, if you get derailed off your subject, then I already know.
Already, I'm just saying, you came in a little strong this morning.
I miss you.
And Debo is somewhere in the building for all of the people who insist on him being included. Hello, Debo. He's somewhere in the building.
I'm just
Taking a nap.
So look, I got guests coming in at 8 o'clock. Folks from Milwaukee County are gonna be in the building. We'll be having some important conversations. So encourage people to stay tuned for that. Let me see what I can work in before we get to our guest. And let me just start by, first of all, Journal Sentinel headline bright and early this morning. FBI action could reveal how Milwaukeeans voted in the 2020 election. So, according to this story, the FBI is seeking 2020 voting data in key states, which is raising concern here in Wisconsin. If the probe expands to Milwaukee, nearly 180,000 absentee ballots with voter information could become public. A lawsuit has prevented the destruction of these 2020 ballots, which would normally have been destroyed. And election officials are expressing concerns over the potential release of private voter data. So the article, and those were just the highlights from it, but the article, basically talks about since Donald Trump's loss in these key battleground states, he literally has been using the FBI to go in and target these different municipalities. We saw what happened down in Fulton County, Georgia, to have people turn over voting data because you're the biggest crybaby on the planet. You can't accept that you lost the race. You've gotten reelected, and what did he say? There would not necessarily be retribution except for maybe one day. His entire presidency has been about payback, retribution, whatever other word you want to insert that has to do with getting even and being childish and not being a grown man and knowing how to deal with the loss that we are now seeing state after state in these battleground states be pressured by his administration. What were they doing in Minnesota before they killed 2 people over there under the guise that ICE is in there under immigration enforcement? But you tell Minnesota, give us your voting data and change certain voting laws and we'll get out of Minnesota. Well, I thought you was here for immigration. I thought that's why you were swarming down on Minnesota and Minneapolis in particular, because of immigration. So how does voting data become a part of the conversation? State and local elected officials in Wisconsin were on alert Monday after the FBI issued a grand jury subpoena for voting information in Maricopa County, Arizona, second battleground state where federal authorities have been trying to compel the release of records related to the 2020 election. Of course, I mentioned Fulton County, Georgia already. There has not been any movement in Wisconsin, but if federal authorities expand their probe to include the pursuit of voting data in Milwaukee, and you remember Trump accused people in Milwaukee of cheating. He tried, him and Kanye West, they were trying to come for our absentee ballots and get our information. But with absentee ballots, the ID number could be turned over, which then, you're able to put that ID number with an individual voter. So the state law requires absentee ballots counted at central counting facility to include all poll list numbers, which then, like I said, could be used to go back and figure out who voters are. So you would know how voters, your information is public, and you'll know how they voted. Normally, ballots from an election held more than 5 years ago would have been destroyed by now, according to what the City Election Commission, says. But these ballots still exist in part because of a lawsuit filed against the city by a New London man who has filed dozens of lawsuits against state and local election officials over the 2020 election and other voting matters. So we have had to hold on to these ballots, and now the FBI potentially could have Milwaukee in their crosshairs to get a hold of this information. The U.S. Department of Justice is suing Wisconsin officials over their refusal to hand over confidential information of voters that the state election officials argue is protected by Wisconsin law. So DOJ, Donald Trump, thinks all of these agencies are his personal, lackeys who are only there to do his bidding. The DOJ, which is supposed to be like, its own independently operating agency for the most part, suing Wisconsin, trying to get access to confidential voter information. The federal lawsuit is one of nearly 24 the Trump administration has filed across the country, mostly in states with Democratic governors, and they want these people's voter lists. So all the folks that are talking about red flags are being sent up all over the country about the 2026 midterm elections and potentially what happens in the 2028 presidential election. So I'm glad that Paulina Gutierrez and the folks at the Election Commission are sounding this alarm. People have got to start figuring out what the strategy is going to be. We've seen our Common Council members be proactive in terms of trying to figure out with like ICE, and if they, get here, what is in the city's purview to be able to respond back. How do we differentiate between what ICE is doing, local law enforcement, the whole mask policy, and all those conversations? But y'all, make no mistake, these people are getting tuned up. And I shouldn't say getting tuned up. They are already putting things in play to play with the outcomes of this 2026 election. Donald Trump has demonstrated that he is willing to lie. He is willing to cheat. And when I say that, you can look at taxes. You can look at the fake charity that he had and now has been barred in the state of New York for 10 years from owning a nonprofit charitable organization because they wasn't giving the damn money to nobody. He was taking in donations and then using it to get portraits of himself painted. The whole lying on the taxes that got him his 34 felony counts with Michael Cohen. So he has a history, a documented history of being a liar and a cheat, America, and all these people who love him and want to vote for him and support him. He has a history of being a liar and a cheat. With him having control over the people who run all of these federal agencies, is anybody comfortable believing that these people will uphold a fair election process? The federal government is not supposed to be involved in our local state elections. That's the way the framers of the Constitution set it up. He has been hell bent on trying to figure out how to insert himself into the process. So I just want to thank Paulina Gutierrez and the folks again at the Election Commission for raising the flag, to getting people to thinking about this. Hopefully, Attorney General Josh Kaul is trying to figure out what are our legal options continuing, to try to protect Wisconsin citizens. But yeah, this is a hot mess in 2026 in terms of this fall election, because it's a lot on the line. If they are able to flip some of these seats in Congress, it shuts down a whole bunch of foolishness with the White House. It shuts it down. Like, I am sorry. There ought to be laws that say you can't use private money to build this ballroom, because that's undue influence. Pay for play. What are these people who donated these millions and millions of dollars to his fake ballroom expect in return? what policy, what tax, provisions, what business policy, what do you expect in return for that? It should have never been allowed. But the idea that you tear down a third of the White House, only a white man could do that. Only a white man could do that in this country. Just tear down a third of a historic building with no permission from anybody. So this guy's regard for rules, precedent, process, other branches of the government means nothing. And the spineless Republicans have rolled over and let this man do anything and everything damn near he wanted to do under the sun. Any and everything. All of they wolf tickets that they sell, these the scariest people I ever seen in my life. When people go to work understanding you don't own a Senate seat, you don't own a a House representative seat, you are there on behalf and at the pleasure of the people. But see, they think that those are their seats until they don't want them anymore or they die in them. And so they do everything under the sun to keep that seat. Not so I can continue serving the people effectively, but so I can continue to have all the privilege and the access that goes with that job. So I got to take a break. But y'all, one of the ways to shut down some of the cheating is if people show up in such ridiculous numbers that I don't care how you try to shave off some voters here, pull out some people here, disqualify these ballots, you still can't do enough because the numbers were so great in the voter turnout, it dwarfs anything you're trying to do. People can beat these political games, but they got to show up. Let me take a break. I'll be right back. All right, family, welcome back to the show. Before I touch on MPS, let me just take a second. You know how you can go down the little rabbit holes on social media and they figure out your algorithm and they just push these stories to you. Well, one of the things that showed up on my timeline, I did appreciate reading. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's super long, but it goes a little bit like this. ABC made $2 billion from her shows. A Disney executive told her, "Don't you have enough?" She called Netflix the same day. The woman who built Thursday nights into the most watched block in television history walked away from the biggest network in America over a Disneyland pass. Shonda Rhimes was 35 years old. Sitting alone in her apartment in LA with a newborn daughter she adopted as a single mother. No partner, no safety net. A screenplay she had just finished writing on spec with no guarantee anyone would buy it. She'd been writing for a decade: HBO movies, documentary scripts, feature films, small work, the kind that pays enough to survive, but not enough to matter. The script she had just finished was about a surgical interns at a Seattle hospital. She called it Grey's Anatomy. ABC bought it on the pitch, scheduled it as a mid-season replacement in '05. Mid-season replacements are where shows go to die. Everyone in Hollywood knew that. Everyone said so. Mid-season shows don't survive. Medical dramas are oversaturated. Networks don't take risk on black showrunners. You're an unknown writer. Nobody will watch. She didn't listen. So Shonda Rhimes goes about casting her characters in what she called colorblind casting. When and network television, they don't really do that. So anybody could audition for these parts. It wasn't this part was written for a black man, this part was written for an Asian woman. Anybody could apply. Grey's Anatomy premiered on March 27th in 2005 with one season. Within one season, it was the number one drama on American television. 2012, she launched Scandal, uh, putting Olivia Pope as the first black woman to lead a primetime network drama since the 1970s. 2014, she launched How to Get Away with Murder with Viola Davis. She became the first woman in television history to create 3 dramas that hit 100 episodes each, all on the same network. So what used to be TGIF on TV became TGIT. Thank God it's Thursday. Thursday nights on ABC became the most watched, must-watch television because of one person, Shonda Rhimes. 2017, Rhimes had generated $2 billion for ABC. She was earning $10 million a year, up to $1 million per episode of Grey's Anatomy. Then something changed. Her family tried to use their all-inclusive Disneyland passes that had been given to her as a part of her deal with Disney. One of them was declined. Rhimes called the senior Disney executive to sort it out. The executive asked her, "Don't you have enough?" She called her lawyer the same afternoon. And then she called Netflix. Netflix didn't ask if you have enough. They asked her, "What do you want to build?" 2017, Netflix announced they had signed Shonda Rhimes to an exclusive deal. The New York Times reported it could be worth up to $150 million for a 4-year partnership. That would bring Shondaland. She owned all her shows, brought them under the Netflix banner. So I'm going to fast forward. When she gets to Netflix, she comes up with Bridgerton on Netflix, December 2020. In its first 4 weeks, it was watched for 625 million hours. Then she does an expansion deal in 2021 with Netflix. The new terms between $300 to $400 million. Bridgerton season 2, Queen Charlotte, the prequel, Inventing Anna. Each one broke records. Each one proved the same thing. Today, Shonda Rhimes' personal worth stands at about $250 million. So remember, when she's at Disney, she's worth about $10 million. Because this executive, who instead of taking care of the sister who was creating all of the content that was helping to take care of his company, he talks to her like she's just some black chick begging, don't you have enough? And she says, oh, no, you ain't going to disrespect me. Because number one, it was a part of my deal. She walks away and takes her to, how much did I say she worth now? 250 million. So the takeaway, first of all, I wonder what happened to the executive who talked slick to her and cost Disney the contract with Shonda. That's number one. Because Grey's Anatomy is still on TV. It's in its 21st season. It's the longest running medical show in the country's history. So the thing that was at the end of this whole long story, the moment someone questions whether you deserve what you've earned is the moment to stop negotiating and start leaving. The people who built wealth on your work should never need to ask if you're worth it. Your leverage is highest at exactly the moment it feels most comfortable to stay. Stop staying loyal to people who stop being loyal to you first. Stop waiting for permission from people who've already shown you they don't respect what you bring. Start thinking like Shonda Rhimes. Find a room where they ask you what you want to build next instead of asking you what you've already built. Take your work there. Don't look back. And never let anyone convince you that the empire you built for someone else is more important than the one you haven't built yet. Sometimes the most powerful move a creator can make is simply walking out the door. Somebody need to hear that this morning, myself included. Somebody need to hear that this morning. The idea that somebody played with this woman, played with this girl about a Disneyland pass. And for people who don't know, you take it for granted that somebody got to be here. Somebody got to do this. And she let them know, no, you playing with the wrong one. But also for all of the dreamers, she got into this game at 35 when things began to take off for her. Don't ever stop trying. Don't ever stop believing in yourself. Don't ever let somebody else tell you what you can or cannot do. So I thought that as we talk about Women's History Month, I thought that was an extremely important piece for people to hear, because it's folks trying to figure it out. And it's folks, that they know they being taken advantage of, and they still, are like trying to be loyal. This girl left a $10 million gig at Disney because of a Disneyland pass. But the bigger piece is because of respect. Respect. I really wondered if the man who triggered it, set it all off in motion, maintained his job at Disney. So now that I've done that, let me bring in the other conversation that I have been trying to get to. Milwaukee Public Schools. So it is official. The memos are out. As of yesterday, the Milwaukee School Board members voted 5-2, taking a story from the Journal Sentinel, to cut 263 jobs from Milwaukee Public Schools for the next school year. The cuts, which have been proposed earlier by the superintendent, Brenda Casilius, are projected to, quote, save MPS about $30 million for the next school year. But remember, we $46 million in the hole. So one of the things they say is because there was a discovery that MPS overspent its budget for the last school year. So Casilius, who says, I ain't got no choice, we got to do something. The union, hot, they rejected it. called for more detailed information about the budget plans, the exact positions that were going to be cut. You had the president, Ingrid Walker Henry, who said, quote, the board should not be rushed to vote without all of the information needed to make a fully informed, responsible decision. Caecilius hadn't shared yet what the roughly 263 positions she plans to cut would be. And I'm paraphrasing right there, though she shared some broad categories of jobs. And I talked about those last week on the show that would be reduced. Certain jobs would be protected. Classroom teachers, counselors, social workers, psychologists, and nurses, she has indicated would be protected. Urging the board members to approve the plan, Caecilius said any delay would make it harder for the staff who are losing their jobs to find other jobs ahead of the next school year. People are going to get notified in the next coming few weeks so they can apply for other vacant positions in the district when they are posted at the end of March. And she says we absolutely need to be courageous as a board and do the adjustments so that we can give every single person the respect and dignity they need. I love how, all of this is couched in the love and the respect and the dignity and the la. But I want to be able to figure out, and I'm getting ready to click this link in the story. When we talk about that the budget was overspent, when did that happen? How did that happen? So a previous story, MPS was exploring these cuts, but I'm trying to figure out where I can clearly say they overspent on what. When exactly did we get into this situation? Because we coming off, money requested through the referendum that was supposed to go to MPS. They say, we're able to continue funding operations despite the deficit because the operation fund is pooled with other funds, blah, blah, blah. But I cannot for the life of me, and let me see, I'm looking for it in this article, get to the point of where we overspent on what and when did the overspending happen. That's the part I can't get to. It's not enough details to me and for me about, so we overspent on the cleanup for the lead. We overspent on, employee benefits. We overspent on new hires. We overspent on building renovation. What did you overspend? Where did it happen? That's what I cannot figure out. Somebody said both unions were hot, the administrators union and MTEA. This was the first time both unions have ever signed a joint letter against the superintendent. But if anybody can call and tell me until I can do my homework to figure it out, what exactly happened, then, somebody, talked about her starting her base salary, $320,000, $400,000. Yep. I knew the salary piece. I knew that part. I'm trying to figure out how do we overspend to the tune of $46 million? Where is the clear breakout? And I missed the meetings. I will be honest. If any of you went to the meetings, did they talk about that at the meeting? So we overspent $18 million on bus transportation. We overspent $3 million on, higher utility costs than anticipated. What did you overspend $46 million on? What? I mean, I read the article. I never walked away with a clear, concise understanding of how the district got in the red. Does anybody know? Have they clearly said, because they telling me how you gonna try to fix the problem, but how do we know how we got to the problem so that we don't end up here again? Anybody? Phones are open. Have you been in any room, any meeting where MPS said We did this, and whose fault is it? Who was signing checks for money we didn't have? Do they still have a job? Did it happen before Casilius came? Some of it happened while she was here. Was the motion already in play? Can anybody answer these questions for me? Anybody? Have the board of directors, I know Casilius had her town hall meetings and stuff, but have y'all heard from any of y'all board of directors at any neighborhood meetings, at any, I don't know if they hold meetings, but has anybody told anybody whose fault is it that we overspent? What the hell do the board be doing that y'all could overspend $46 million and y'all don't know till after we already in trouble? I don't think I'm asking difficult questions. And when I'm reading the stories, I'm expecting a little bit more detail about how we got here. How did we get here? Is somebody calling because they know? Well, let's see. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Oh, yeah, this is Ray Mack. It's my birthday. I'd like to say happy birthday to myself,
Happy birthday, Ray.
to the greatest radio station in the world, WOV, Michelle Bryant, and your crew. Amen. Y'all keep it up. Y'all keep it real and say something real. And my name is Ray Mack. You said I'm
All right. Love him. Happy birthday, babe. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. So look, y'all, they said MPS has been running behind on its audits for years, causing blah, blah, blah. Y'all, can I get an exact date when we had crossed over from a positive balance to a negative balance? And why did it take us getting $46 million in the hole before people realize, whoops, we in the hole? I don't understand what these people do. I don't. I don't understand what the oversight looks like. Like the monthly reports that y'all get, are people just lying on the monthly reports and y'all don't know what's going on in y'all own damn district? How do you get $46 million in the hole? And now we got to cut jobs. We got to do this. We got to do that. You want to say something?
Sound like somebody was stealing.
I don't. Somebody else is texting me that.
The only reason why I say that is because for you to be $46 million in the hole, that means people was hiding and covering up until the light hit the situation. Because there's no way you're going to be $46 million in the hole and you're just, doing numbers wrong or you miscalculating. That is cover up. That is evidence of cover up, and it hit the fan, and some people got caught.
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't know about the theft angle, even though some people have texted me before you even said it. Some listeners already are asking about that. But I know in the one article they say, there's going to be an independent audit so that they can figure out the analysis on how the district, ran this deficit in the first place. But, they talked about, possibly inefficient system, staff turnover, lack of institutional knowledge. I ain't trying to hear none of this, because we've been in trouble for years with MPS, and that was shown after, all of the different stuff came out. Somebody said appropriations, basic accounting practices not adhered to. Who is the comptroller? And what is the expenditures status when Casilius? Because like I said, if I'm Casilius, I'm not, before I came out to tell people we 46 million in the hole, somebody would have put together for me. And if I had to stay there with them, I would have been able to come out and tell people, so we in the hole because under the previous administration, they spent money on this. You think I'm getting ready to have this up under my name? No, sir. No, ma'am. So I don't know, though, how you tell people we in a hole, but you can't tell them how we got there. Like, that's madness to me. And then don't come talking about the remedy, and don't definitely come talking to taxpayers about bailouts when we don't understand what happened in the first place, and we just sent money your way with the referendum. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning.
Are they gonna drag her through the mud like they did Moses?
I mean, right
They need
now,
to.
I think before you can drag, you got to find out what happened.
Yeah.
But if I'm her, when I step to the mic to tell you we 46 million in the hole, I'm gonna be able to tell you how we got there. I'd be dang if I step to a mic and I can't tell you this didn't have nothing to do with me. I walked into this mess. Now I'm here to try to figure out how to help clean it up. But I'm not getting ready to take the brunt of this. And the fact that she didn't do that, I just think that that's crazy to me. So no, we can't drag her till we know what happened.
Yeah, I don't believe that that type of money was already out there like that, because they really went in on that man.
Oh yeah, he got clown. Yeah. And some of it I think was deserved. Some of it, not so much, because then it just became a dumping situation. But we'll see. But yes, ma'am, that's what until we know, you gotta hold your dragon.
Okay.
until we get some answers. All right, thank you, man. Yes, sir. Oh, so because I'm not sure if your mic is on, Clark, and they can hear you. So how far back do we go with these problems with the money? So we've been having problems with our audits for at least 5 years. We were getting penalized by the state for financial reports not being turned in a timely and prompt manner. So we've had historical problems with audits, the whole 9 yards. But I don't think that any of them had shown, this level of a deficit going into these reports. I just don't know. It's not clear. But when we approve referendums, $252 million. That's what the referendum was that got approved back in, that feels like a lifetime ago, but last year. And this time last year, we were doing the spring election, April, 3rd, maybe back then. And they caught $252 million. Now, mind you, the way that breaks out, they didn't get $252 million up front, but they ended up, because they said at that time they were facing a $200 million deficit for 2025. So we keep being in the same place. They knew when, and this is the thing, I have always been told behind the scenes that MPS knew, the city knew, the county knew, that when they was asking for the referendum, it was not enough money to help deal with what was going on, but that it could relieve some of the pressure. And they knew that they were going to have to come back to taxpayers again to ask for additional money. So I'm like, why not just ask for what you need up front? And let's just deal with this pain up front. Then don't come back now after people done signed off on $252 million referendum. And now talking about we still broke and we got to let some people go. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Good morning, Michelle. Good morning. Great piece on, is it Sandra Rhimes?
Oh, Chandra. Yeah, Chandra Rhimes. Yes.
Sandra Rhimes.
Yes.
And then you transition to Castilius. It's like apples and oranges. I'm no accountant, but how many hot dogs and chips and sodas we going to have to sell at these basketball games to get us out of this $46 million hole?
Yeah.
This is ridiculous in regard to no accountability. And then the information that they purposely shared with us, with leaving out all the details. I'm questioning as a parent, is it because our resources are going to the other districts like Greenfield or whatever to fund our Milwaukee students? Or is it something to do with the lead cleanup that we had? But how is it that each year when they close for the school year and they have those reports, nothing is shared with the public?
Look, these are all
it's stealing. It has nothing to do with the other students going to different districts or the Milwaukee rec. This is some stealing that's happening. And then on the news, they said that they're going to have a private meeting with the board and Dr. Castilius, but it's not open to the public to discuss her future. How is that even fair?
Yeah, on one hand, depending on what specifically is being talked about, even though she is a superintendent of, public schools, she still is an employee. And just like on your job, you are protected as an employee in terms of certain aspects of conversations about your job performance, da 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 da. She has those same protections. Those aren't removed just because of the type of position that she holds. So I can understand that there can be some closed door things in relationship to her job, but ultimately there will be an expectation that the board come back to the public and talk about the things that are not legally prohibited in terms of helping people understand where we are going forward.
And then what about the security resource officers? Are they sucking up the budget? I don't think that the way to answer this or to get out of this hole is to eliminate not the teachers, but the support staff and those principals that they had up on the screen this morning. Those teachers have a lot to deal with, and now you're saying that you're going to cut support staff from this to try to make up the budget. I really don't think that that's the answer. Are we paying? Is the $46 million due to those officers that they have in some of those schools?
Wait, say that again.
And I'm sorry, I know you're not Dr. Myers, but she's still working the school system. Maybe she can call and help me out here because I'm just.
No, wait. What was the question you asked though?
Those resource officers. Remember those police?
Yeah, that was an unfunded mandate. The legislature told MPS, you got to hire these people. Some of them to the tune of $70,000 a year, and y'all got to figure out how to pay for it. That was an unfunded mandate.
So is that part of the overspending?
It could easily be because that wasn't in our budget. We had gotten rid of those positions. So yeah, that was not in the budget. So that definitely could play in. I don't know how because we haven't already had to expend a lot of that money anyway. But yeah, we can find out. But this is the thing I will tell you: contact your school rep. Contact your school board member and ask for some answers. We not contacting these people and make them come forward and talk to y'all about what's going on. But it seems like half the time they don't know. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate it. All right, family. I got one more call. Let me get them in real quick, and then I'm gonna take a quick break and get ready for my guests. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, we look at this MPS situation. It affects a lot of us. You're a homeowner or whatever. Because the thing is that this thing with Tony Evers, this 100-year that he put out on the taxing of the property tax and all this, and then not only that is that they underfunded anyway. The state has not been giving them the funding that they need. So at the end of the day, there's a catch-22 here. My daughter goes to private school, but I got a lot of nieces and nephews that go to public schooling, and it's really affecting them because these kids don't have the resources that they need. Now, for them to be $46 million in the red, that's crazy. They really need to fund them properly. The state need to fund MPS properly. They don't need to be cutting.
Well, I'm gonna say this, bruh, and I gotta go because of my call. And so thank you for the call. But I will say this: one of the things that Lena Taylor, when she was a senator, used to raise all the time, and I think Rep Myers, Lakeisha, when she was a rep, she may have raised it too, and it used to irritate the folks, in the union. It used to irritate the folks in the district. Would be, well, number one, we know there's a funding flaw in the way schools are funded here in the state of Wisconsin, and Milwaukee frequently caught the short end of the stick. We know that. And there have been incremental things done to address it, but nothing that has come close to dealing with the actual problem. But the other thing Lena would always say too is, but before I continue to throw more money at the problem, help me understand what you're doing with the money we giving you right now. Show me how you're good stewards of the money that we're giving you right now. And people used to get upset because she was asking accountability questions. Don't just keep telling me y'all not getting enough. I'm fighting that fight for you. But help me understand what you're doing with what you got, because some of this is not adding up. These were long-held conversations that she would have, and people would get hot because she would bring it up. How you get mad because somebody asks you, when you're using taxpayer money, to show me that you're being efficient and, accountable and responsible with the money that you're receiving? Show me that. How you get mad? And they would get mad. And not want to support her, and she's awful, and she's not a friend of the schools. And man, get out of here. Because I'm asking you questions. I'm not your friend. No, that's not how this works. That's not how, first of all, it's business. She represents taxpayers. She was sitting on joint finance. So now you on the state's budget. Help people understand what's happening with this money. So when I'm making the case for y'all and what y'all need, I can say what we're doing already in the district, and we're being responsible. We're being frugal. We're being, we got our accounts in order. But she couldn't say that with a degree of confidence. She couldn't say it. So I got to switch gears, y'all. Let me take a break. Woo, Lord, it's too much. It's too much. But I do. I want to know how where we overspent at. I want to understand that better. We'll be right back. All right, family, welcome back to the show. So I told you I had some guests coming in this morning, and I have some folks in. We're going to have some conversation regarding mental health, Milwaukee County Behavioral Health Services programming. But the thing that was interesting, so I walked out of the house without my notes. So when I went out in the lobby and was like, hey, I understand, this conversation we're about to happen or have, and somebody said, well, there's talent here and there's beauty here. So I'm not sure. So one of these guys has information and the other one is here just to look good. I'm not sure who is who.
That's hilarious.
Did you say that's hilarious?
That's hilarious.
So
we're gonna keep you guessing.
I said we're gonna just do the show. At the end of the day of the segment, I'll figure out which was talent and which was beauty. We gonna figure it out. But let me say good morning to the gentlemen in studio. Hey fellas, how y'all doing this morning? Can you do me a favor? I'm gonna have you lean in. Make sure you lean in for the mic. I can already tell who might be the beauty in the room. He leaning back like he can do a cover of a magazine shoot. I'm not sure, but I'm getting a feeling. But I'm gonna have you guys introduce yourself to the listening audience. Let me start on my far end down here. Tell them who you are, bro.
Hey everybody, it's Jeremy Triplett, Prevention Integration Manager at Milwaukee County Department of Health and Human Services.
That sounded a little bit like talent, but we're gonna keep going.
Yep.
And so thank you, Jeremy, for joining us this morning. And yes, sir, you.
My name is Mike LAPPEN. I'm the administrator for Behavioral Health Services for Milwaukee County.
All right. So let me do this. We hear a lot about the term behavioral health, mental health. I don't know that everybody always understands what that encompasses. So who would be the best person to start with to kind of frame out department-wise what it is we're talking about exactly?
So Behavioral Health Services in Milwaukee is a gigantic organization. It's also a very large partnership. So we provide some services directly through our crisis programs and really are the system that's designed to fill the gap. So like when people need help like today, right now, we're there for them. We also have just an enormous network of partnerships and communities. So, mental health, everybody, we always say, everybody experiences mental health. It's just a matter of some days people might have a crisis, something might happen in their life, something might change. People have a lot of stress. The world's a little stressful right now. And so people might have anxiety, they might have depression. We also serve people who are experiencing challenges with substances, alcohol, drugs. We're there to help folks get people back on track, and we really try to help people live what we would call a life in recovery, so that they're getting the most out of their lives and they're being their best self.
So when I first looked it up, because like I said, and I'm not leaving myself out of this equation. Frequently, I think a lot of lay people get confused about, how to think about this whole thing. So one of the AI definitions of behavioral health, that connection between behaviors, diet, exercise, substance use, overall physical and mental well-being of a person. But like you said, just this all encompassing. And when we think about the county, those are the services that immediately come to mind.
Mm-hmm.
But when we look at statistically, do we have any idea in terms of our county, how many people can be impacted and need the services that you all provide, Jeremy?
Yeah, I want to say last year we served 10,000 folks.
That's what you serve. Do we know if the need is greater than what you were able actually to service?
Oh yeah, the need is definitely greater.
Okay.
The system doesn't have the capacity to serve every single body for every single mental health challenge that you may experience. And so what happens is the work that I do is around prevention. And so if you think about a continuum, there is, how do we make sure we promote information that people actually need, right? Come to the radio station, put up a billboard, those kinds of things, making sure everybody just has a general understanding of where to go if you have a mental health challenge, what number to call, right? You've heard of 988, for example, right? If you have suicide ideation. And so that is promotion. Prevention moves you more toward, you know what? I'm noticing that Jeremy specifically lives in a specific neighborhood, or Jeremy is African-American and he's male. We know statistically we have a less chance of going to our primary care physician, right? And so, you know what? I want to prevent Jeremy
or
from
even having one.
Well, I mean, all right.
I'm just, I mean, if I'm gonna throw
All
it,
right.
we're gonna put it out there.
Let me go get me one, right?
Yeah.
So, but the idea there is that I need to prevent someone who is like Jeremy, myself, who may not have one, and I need to make sure that I prevent him from catching something like colon cancer later in life or too late for a healthier intervention, right? And so prevention is that idea that there are some people in our community, we have data, we have resources and relationships, we're in community all the time. And so we are able to connect people and go, you know what, these folks, that person or these groups of people have something in common, right? That connects to mental health. We need to make sure that those folks have the right information, resources. And sometimes we look at folks and we go, okay, I talked to you. You said you have a parent, a cousin, an auntie who may actually have some severe cases or some mental health challenges. Let me make sure you're able to connect them, or you can connect them to me.
But Jeremy, I'm hearing a lot of things in what you've laid out because, first of all, when I think about mental health, and again, novice here, but like I'm thinking about a spectrum or a continuum of, where you could be at on the scale at any given time. And people can enter this at different places.
Yes.
And I don't know that in the community, some of the things, like I don't necessarily think about me struggling with my medical health could potentially impact mental health. Even though, I don't feel good. I'm sad about what's going on with me. I'm worried about, mortality. I'm worried about those kinds of things. But can you all kind of speak to for people, because some people will tell you, I don't have no mental health issues. I am stressed, but that's not mental health. I'm worried about these bills, but I'm not getting ready to jump off out the window. Like, can you speak to that piece of it for just a second, Mike?
Sure. So the way I would just frame it is about 5% of the population in the world has what we would call a serious mental illness. So someone whose life is very substantially impacted. These are diagnoses you might hear like schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder, a more severe bipolar disorder. These are folks who their mental illness, if untreated, will make their life really impossible. They'll have symptoms that really keep them from doing the things they want to do. And typically, many times, these individuals don't always actually recognize that they're sick. It's their loved ones, it's their family that comes to us. And then the next stat I'll just drop on you is like 1 in 4 people at any given time would have some sort of mental health, experiencing a mental health challenge that they would probably benefit from talking to somebody, really, getting some support. And those are things like anxiety, depression. I think the difference where we really talk about getting that help is when, I'm anxious and I'm having a hard time like getting to the grocery store because I feel anxiety when I leave, or I'm so depressed I can't get out of bed today. And the other thing we would call out is many times people have multiple challenges. So they're experiencing depression, or maybe they have this back injury, and maybe they start drinking a little bit alcohol, kind of soothe things. Well, all of a sudden that has become a problem for them, and it's sort of compounds things. So that's where we try to help folks navigate those challenges when they feel like their life's unmanageable. There are lots of folks in our community here to help, and it's a matter of making those connections.
So Jeremy, because I'm not sure if I remember that perhaps you raised race as a part of that initial descriptor. But when we start talking about people in the African-American community, of which many of my listeners are comprised, does this become even more twofold, or does race factor in? And I know the answer. And I know some people are like, come on now, Michelle. But I think sometimes you got to say certain things.
You do have to say it,
for it to be understood, and help people understand that there's actually science and data.
Yeah.
Not just because we know anecdotally what we think is happening, but that there may be science that supports that.
Yeah, in America alone, race is a health crisis, right? And so it impacts your health, right? We have that at the county as a part of our mission to make sure that race is no longer a factor in our health outcomes. When we talk about African-American folks, particularly in America, we're talking about a generational experience with racism, with things like all kinds of life circumstances that we carry in our bloodline that we remember in our bodies, right? And so you have to start there first, that you are born into a generation in a world where we have been impacted and have very similar stories, generation after generation after generation, that impacts your body, right? Because it remembers those things even though you weren't born yet. It's passed down in physical memory. And so you have those pieces. Then you have the environment of, okay, if you're born in Milwaukee and you're African American, you have a higher likelihood of being born with less finances than you would like, right? In poverty, things of that nature. Those circumstances shape many times how you show up in the world, the messages you receive from the world, and how you engage with your peers, right? And so all of those pieces shape mental health. So when you said it earlier, you had alluded to sometimes you can have a mental health crisis or you don't realize what's going on. You just stress, I got to pay my bills. Having to pay your bills and that being toxically stressful is a mental health challenge.
I think people have shied away from these terms because, as we know, nobody wants, the kids say cray cray. Nobody wants anybody to look at them and say there's something wrong with them.
But the truth is, we do all the time. It's a
weakness if we say that.
Yeah, but we do it all the time, though. We all got uncles and aunties.
Oh,
come on now.
But that's them, though. That's not me, man.
That's the point, right?
That's Jeremy.
Why is it?
Jeremy, that cousin we keep in the back at the family reunion.
But why everybody got the same family story? Hello, there's a lot of us running around.
Statistically, it's one in every family.
Listen, right?
You know how
Mike
people
said 1 in 4.
Yeah, 1 in 4.
Say it again.
Well, 1 in 4 folks will have a mental health crisis. Probably today, they have something going on. They have some challenges, and it's very prevalent. People just don't talk about it. That's what.
So look, I'm gonna say this. When you talked about particularly being African American, some of the generational stuff, some of it just like embedded in the DNA or the genes. I saw a story this morning as I was getting ready for work, and it was talking about a questionable shooting. I forgot in what city, state. All of them run together now. But an individual had a mental health issue and had been known to have mental health problems all of his life. His sister ended up calling the police because he had cut himself with a knife. Police arrive on the scene. The initial officers are trying to, engage him. Another officer arrives on the scene, tells him put the knife down. He doesn't. He shoots him 9 times. The guy is taken to the hospital, subsequently dies a couple of days later. And even though I'm hearing the mental health component of that, I am somebody who has paid attention to the deaths of unarmed Black folks at the hands of law enforcement. I have a son that I worry about. I have a 6-year-old grandson who I'm already worrying about. And I literally had to find myself this morning shaking that off to come sit down at the radio station and do this job. And even though at some point I might even talk about that story, but it's like you take on things that you really have to figure out how to compartmentalize some of this stuff, or you find yourself, it's so easy to spiral. So I hear people now saying, I turn off the news. I don't watch. I don't engage. Is what I'm describing something that also shows up?
Well,
for you guys.
Well, and you bring up a great point. I mean, this is not a softball question, but it's a good one. It's really important. So the hardest thing we deal with, and it really ties back to where we started, stigma is the biggest thing. So it is absolutely true that there are occasions when a person with mental illness is involved in something like that. But the truth is the great, great majority of people with serious mental illness, and that's that 5% likely that I'm talking about, the great majority of those folks are more likely to be the victim of a crime than to perpetrate one. And but the news always will lead with the person had mental health issues, the person had this, and then what then happens is that's a factor. When people are evaluating, let's say they have anxiety or depression, they have one of those experiences, they're like, I don't want people to think I'm like that guy.
Right.
And so it really does fuel the stigma. And we can talk a little bit about how that sort of involuntary system works and when someone has a contact with police, and we can help guide people. But for the most part, those are extremely rare and outlier cases, but they come to define people. And it really is, that's part of our battle, is trying to sort of fight through that stigma to get people to get the help they need long before they end up in that moment where their life has spiraled to the point where they could commit something so horrible.
Well, do I need to take a break, Jermaine? Let me take a break. When we come back, and I know I got a caller, we will work them in. But then to talk about, okay, well, for folks who say, I think I need some help, I want some help, where do I go? What's available for me? We can begin to have that conversation on the other side of the break.
Okay.
All right. Michelle Bryant, WNOV, 860 AM, 106.5 FM. Talent or beauty? I need you guys to help me decide, folks that's watching on YouTube, Facebook. Chime in. Talent or beauty? We'll be right back. Family, welcome back to the show. So we are talking behavioral health services with the good folks from Milwaukee County. Milwaukee County. We have Michael and Jeremy in the building. Y'all will hear me go from Mike to Michael, but we have these two guys in the building. And I know we had a caller that helped you to break. Let me get them in real quick. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Good morning, Michelle. Thanks for taking my call. I'll make this a very quick question. Good morning, Mr. Riley. Good morning, Clark. Welcome back. Love and condolences for you and for your family member out in Vegas there. Good morning, Milwaukee. Tyrone Debbie speaking. Salam alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak to all those that participate, also known as Rafiq Muhammad Abdullah, myself. Michelle and gentlemen, good morning, gentlemen. If I am suffering from, let's just, and there's a list of things that could be suffering from that, but just let's say, for example, lead is involved. Okay, I've got schizophrenia, Parkinson's, or Alzheimer's, or whatever, but I'm suffering from lead induction, lead all throughout the body here. If I'm mentally challenged or whatever, or with any of those conditions there, how do I even begin to go about understanding what lead is doing to me and advocating for myself that I need to be tested? And are they actually being tested, so they can speak for themselves? They need somebody to speak for them. They've got lead issues, but they don't even understand what's going on with them mentally, let alone with lead there.
Okay, so let's
I don't know if you're doctors or not, but do the best you can to, handle that and unfold that for me. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, thank you. No problem. Mike, you want to get in?
So I am not a doctor, but I would say to the caller, I heard in the question, somebody who might have a mental health challenge, they could also have been exposed to lead, and it's a thing. People lead paint, lead pipes. We know it's an issue. For people we work with, we would make sure that they get great health care. Part of the work we do, Jeremy mentioned, we have about 10,000 people that we serve in a number of programs where they might have they might have what we call a case manager. There's a lot of different terms for it, unfortunately, but someone who helps them. One of our focus is that more global wellness for people. So we treat people's mental health, but we understand that your mental health doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's part of your health as a person.
Wow, right.
And so we really try to focus on making sure people get adequate health care. We would make sure people get tested. We want to help them with diet. We want to help them manage things like diabetes. And we want to do prevention not only in the mental health space. It's really crucial that we help people as upstream as possible, so they don't find themselves in a place where they're having terrible outcomes. But we also want to make sure their physical health and they're getting the right foods and the right diets, because that will make their life more helpful. We work with many community providers that provide medical services to our folks, and it's just part of the package that we really try to make sure everybody gets when we're serving them.
So I want to ask one other question, and then we will get to what people should do in crisis. But someone texted this question. They said they have a brother who is in stage 5 renal failure, refuses dialysis, and ends up hospitalized with toxins. He also refused meds for diabetes and blood pressure. Yet he says he doesn't want to die. During his last stay, a psychologist deemed him not competent. I have a medical power of attorney, but a doctor told him he could leave, lying that he wasn't held. They let him go, marked him leaving against medical advice just because he was difficult. Now he's home over a week, no dialysis. In your guest's opinion, could this refusal of care, despite wanting to live, be tied to mental health? I'm trying to understand. That was a lot.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Again, without knowing all the facts, I would just say that a power of attorney essentially gets activated when someone is unable to make decisions for themselves. So like in the moment. So for instance, if you're unconscious, you might have a POA.
Right.
So if someone can rationally explain why they're not interested in care, and this really, actually, it's a great question because it relates directly to mental health care. If someone can say to you, I don't want to take those medications, I don't want to go through dialysis because I just don't want to suffer, they can make that choice.
Yeah.
And the threshold in Wisconsin and really across the nation for taking those choices away from people is actually pretty high. And so in the case of a guardianship of person, you literally need 2 professionals to say, yes, this person cannot make these decisions
Okay.
because they are impaired. So they have a cognitive impairment or they have some sort of issue. On the mental health side, it really, they have to be dangerous to themselves or others and really not understand what's happening. And so unfortunately, people and loved ones, and I think we've all had a loved one who makes a choice that isn't the greatest choice, but they have that right, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to kind of work around that and try to help them sort of see, you know, treatment might keep you around to enjoy your family and your loved ones. And like, you know what I mean? Like there's sometimes you have to kind of work around the edges to help convince someone to do something that's probably in their best interest, but where they just may not want to.
Then let's take that then a step further. So if people are in crisis, what should they do? I mean, what's available for us here in Milwaukee County for folks that aren't familiar with all the services?
The first thing I would say, the most important thing, call our crisis line. 24/7, 365. It's 414-257-7222. We have an amazing team. 257-7222.
Okay.
Milwaukee Mobile Crisis. Someone that works for us will answer the phone and talk to you. If you need a team to be sent out, we will send out a team. We will help assess the situation, connect people to resources. We just had our 30th anniversary. A shout out to my team. Our crisis team is an amazing group. We've been doing this just about longer than anyone in the country. We were cutting edge on crisis. The program actually started many years before that, but it got canceled for funding in like the 80s or whatever. But then 30 years ago, we started doing it again, and we've been doing it strong ever since. So 257-7222 gets you connected to our crisis service. And whatever that means to you, we want people to call us. We want to help them, even if it's just a call to get connected to resources.
Okay.
Please call.
So I know at one point somewhere in this conversation, substance abuse came up, but we didn't really expound on that.
Mm-hmm.
For folks that may have this as something that is of a concern for them or for a loved one, what do we do around substance abuse?
Yeah, so there's a lot of resources related to that. The first thing I want to mention.
What's considered substance abuse?
Oh, that's a good question. And so one of the things that we talk about is substance use. First, we start off with that and say people have the right to use legal drugs at their choice.
Okay.
And so sometimes people use drugs and they may decide they don't want to stop using those drugs. Okay.
So this could be something like medically prescribed painkiller, perhaps.
Well, that's a little bit different, but
I'm trying to figure out when we say people have a right to use legal drugs.
So people have a right to
to
choose to use drugs, and what we do is we call that harm reduction. We want to make sure folks who are using substances aren't dying.
Okay.
And so the first thing I always tell folks is think about it this way. If you know someone using substances, the first thing you want to do is make sure they have harm reduction resources. And we call that, it may be a fentanyl test strip to make sure the drugs don't have fentanyl in it, or a xylazine test strip. They can also lock their drugs up in a lock bag to make sure other people aren't getting to those drugs. And you can actually throw drugs away in a deactivation bag. All of those types of supplies can be found in vending machines across the county.
Okay.
And so we have them, there's literally about 20 to 25 vending machines across the whole county that supply you with those types of things. I start there because a lot of times it relates to that earlier question. Sometimes we're talking to folks and the first thing we want to do is try to convince them to stop using substances, and you're going to run into a wall, right? My mother is recovering, and she told us all the time, you cannot force somebody to recover.
Right.
They have to start when they're ready. And so many times we feel helpless and we go, oh, snaps, what are we going to do? First thing you can do is start doing harm reduction. Find the supplies. You can go to harmreductionmke.org. Find the supplies near you, go and grab some and actually give them to folks and say, hey, listen, if you're using substances, please make sure you use these things. There's even videos on how to administer those supplies. Actually at the actual machine. You can use a QR code and all those types of things. There's books. So please, please, please start encouraging folks to be safe as they use if they're not ready to actually stop using.
And so even gun locks were like.
Yeah, gun locks are also in there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So all of these go under that banner of harm reduction. And the idea is that whether it be folks locking up their guns, so that they have a split second to make a decision before they unlock that gun. Those split seconds matter when we talk about either suicide or gun violence at home, or a young person finding a gun at home. All of those related pieces matter when you talk about locking that gun up. That second to unlock it gives you a moment to think about the choice you're about to make. That drastically changes folks' lives. And so those vending machines have all those types of supplies in them called harm reduction supplies.
And I just want to mention that since we're on that, there's a thing you all have called pull up and pick up.
Yeah. So pull up and pick up is an event that we do every month where you can actually come pick up those same supplies I just said were in the vending machines. And you can actually do that. What we have is the registration closes this week, but it opens up every single week. And I'll actually send you the flyer for it.
Okay.
So folks will know where to go, and you can put that on the website if you want to. As well.
And like I said, we'll add a QR code. So folks
yeah.
can pull it. So, I mean, like, okay, it just doesn't get a lot easier than that. That's actually pretty cool. Because when I first saw the flyer, I was like, pull up and pick up.
Yeah,
Wait
pull
a
up,
minute.
pick it up. Yeah.
Okay.
You can actually order the supplies you want. We'll package it for you and then help you get it in your car.
So in terms of services, then, are there other things that people need to be aware of? Because a lot of this is very forward thinking.
Yeah.
And so I'm really just thrilled to see that people, because I was teasing you guys during the break, on some of these things, folks are like, but are you creating more harm if you put it out there? I mean, should we provide fentanyl strips? And I said, well, this was the condom conversation. This was the birth control pill conversation. Like if you give it to them, then they'll never stop. But to the point that you're making, and what I used to see as a social worker, I just need you not to die. Yeah. I need to not lose this battle before we can get to the treatment side, or whatever else life is going to be. But I still need you to be here. Yeah. I need you to not do things that put you in harm's way. Yeah. So I love the whole harm reduction aspect. Mike, you want to jump in?
Well, I just want to call it out. We started doing the vending machines and the harm reduction supplies. Jeremy and his team have led this amazing, saturating the community with these supplies, because our goal is to keep people alive and always try to help them and kind of find that moment. We've experienced a very substantial reduction in overdose deaths. I don't want to sugarcoat it though. We still have an overdose epidemic. Yeah. Really? People are still dying. We're probably getting close to maybe a 40-ish% reduction.
Over the course of how long?
The last 2 years. And so 2 years ago, hopefully it was the peak all time, and we're on our way down. But it's things like Narcan. So Narcan is the nasal spray that cancels the effect of opioids. You can get them in those vending machines. Anybody who has a person in their life that is using drugs should have Narcan. You can come pick up free Narcan from our pull up and pick up, or from any one of those vending machines to just have on hand. Even if you see someone in a crisis, you could have it on you and save their life. And it cannot hurt you if you're not having an overdose. It's harmless. Okay. And so there's no risk. And so that's what we have just saturated the Milwaukee community with that, because we want to keep our citizens alive so that they might connect with these services that will help them get into that solid recovery.
So
sorry.
No, go ahead.
On the website, Harm Reduction MKE, there's a third way you can get these supplies as well. And you can get them mailed to your house.
Stop it.
Yeah, so the Vivint, Depot, you're going to find that on Harm Reduction MKE. You're going to see the Vivint Depot on that website. And all it's telling you is click this button and you can go on there and order supplies for yourself, get them to your house. So you really got 3 opportunities to get the supplies you need. You can go to a vending machine.
I'm on the site. This is crazy.
You can go to a vending machine. You can pull it up in your car. You can mail it to your house.
So there's no excuse. Because the biggest thing is making sure people have the information.
Yes.
But that the resources are there. To try to deal with this. I'm looking at the Vivint online depot right now. Mm-hmm. This is okay. Amazing. I did get a question from someone who had asked about the access points or clinics within the community. Mike, can you speak to that for a second before we get out of here this morning?
Sure. So we have 3 access clinics that we operate in partnership with community health centers.
Okay.
So we have sort of south side, more central, and more north side. So it's 16th Street Community Health Center. 16th and National, Outreach Community Health Center on 2nd and Capitol. And we work with Dr. Tito Izzard and his team at Milwaukee Health Services at their 82nd and Silver Spring Isaac Cogs Heritage Clinic. So there is a Milwaukee County BHS crisis team, so clinicians, doctors, nurse prescribers that work at those clinics. We work in partnership with them. The idea is people can walk in any day, Monday through Friday,
Okay.
be seen, get connected to services. Our goal is to connect people with those longer term services that they need, but to like serve them in the moment. And so most days you can walk in and see someone right then that day who's going to assess you and help you get connected to services.
All right, we got a caller. I want to try to get them in. Don't want to miss that. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Hey, what's happening? Yeah.
Hey.
No, I was listening and been trying to find some help for a great niece. All the stuff that you guys are doing, it sounds great, but and easy. What do you do for someone who doesn't want the help, but needs the help?
Can you just give us an age range on the person? So if we're talking minor, teenager, or adult?
She's about 30.
Okay. All right. So let's try to tackle. Go ahead.
She's a mom. Yeah. And no, if they just could connect us with someone that, because I tried calling Dr. Kwaku, and just someone that maybe could get her to understand. Because real quick, I have another friend who has a niece out east who is a part of a program. She lives there to help her take her medication, and she's doing fine now. But for a while, she was out on the street, and so is my great niece then. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so it's a great question. We do have services available to individuals. It is a challenge sometimes to convince folks. What I would say is it might just be easier to have you want to post my email. We do have a resource you could call. It might be better if I could just help make that personal connection, though. And we have a team either through our crisis service or in our adult services where we have people with lived experience who kind of work as ambassadors with us, peer specialists.
Okay.
Sometimes those folks can communicate in a way that isn't as threatening as like having, the guy from the county come over. And so that is the key, is just to try to help folks get that first connection. Whether it's getting them to our crisis clinic, having a crisis mobile, whatever, we will try to tailor our response to get that person connected to those services that will help them.
So let me do this. Hang on, bruh. Can you do me a favor? Can you leave your contact information with Jermaine? And then I will get all the information and I will shoot it to you as soon as I get off the air.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
I will respond to you today.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Yeah, I'm so glad because I didn't want to miss that call.
Thank you.
Because you just never know what's coming through. Somebody else said, ask about Chapter 51 emergency detention.
Oh, okay. So
that sounds.
Yeah, here we got a minute. So emergency detentions, that's the term in Wisconsin for when someone is taken into custody. So a person who's is
that kind of like against their will?
Correct.
Or?
So a person is demonstrating that they have a mental health issue. In Wisconsin, the person, the criteria for a mental health hold under Chapter 51. So it's, to be technical, it's a 5115 in the state statutes. They must have a mental illness and they must be dangerous to themselves or others in the moment. So, for instance, threatening suicide, self-harm.
So you said they must have a mental illness. This is an already diagnosed mental illness, or
it doesn't necessarily have to be diagnosed, but the challenge is it has to. That's part of the code. So typically, it's they're engaging in behaviors that appear to be mental health related. A lot of times, it's the family called and said, "Hey, my loved one with mental illness is having this problem," and so that's how the call gets initiated.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Wisconsin is one of two states that the only entity that can initiate one of those holds is law enforcement. And so a frequent challenge is you basically are calling the cops on your loved one, and there's no other way to make that decision. How we've tried to mitigate that in Milwaukee is we have a number of teams where they're called CART, or Crisis Assessment Response Teams.
Right.
That is a Milwaukee police officer and one of our crisis clinicians, one of this team from Milwaukee Mobile Crisis. We also have teams with our sheriff's office that are countywide. And then there's a CART team that works in the city of West Allis and a CART team that works in Wauwatosa. those situations, the mental health clinician has access to our records. So they might actually be, or they would actually be much more informed if they're getting called to a scene where someone has a history. Many times people have a crisis plan that they put in place when they were well, and we can help out there. But at the end of the day, the only way to take someone and to hold them is with a Chapter 51 hold initiated by police. What would happen very briefly then is we opened a new facility in Milwaukee back in September of 2022 called the Mental Health Emergency Center. The Mental Health Emergency Center was placed in the 53205 zip code. It's right next door to the new COGS building. We did that because about 70% of the people that we had served in our emergency room historically out on the county grounds lived in 10 zip codes, 8 on the north side, 2 on the south side. The dead center of that heat map was right in that 53205 zip code where we just happened to have a county-owned lot. So we built this new facility. Police can take people to that facility, and then essentially we get them out of police custody and into the hands of people who really are dedicated and know what to do to serve them. And that really that's where that assessment of an involuntary case goes. It is not the only thing we do there, but about half of the people that come there come with law enforcement, many times as voluntaries, because sometimes law enforcement will say, hey, you got to come with us. And we will assess people. They're not technically on a legal hold, but they're getting to the right place. The other half of the patients just come there with families around their own because people know we will help them.
All right. So what I'm going to do then, just because we're up against the clock, first of all, clearly this is a conversation that has to happen again. Just by the messages I'm getting, the caller interaction. So first of all, let me thank both of you all, Mike and Jeremy. I think, if I got to say talent in beauty, the beauty in the work that you guys are both doing.
Come on, bring it home.
And the fact that we got talented people working on behalf of the residents
Come on
that are pulling us through. So, we can give it up for both. All right. So look, family, give folks the website where they can go and find many of the things that you all talked about for behavioral health. And then we will get back to callers. Anyone that did not get through with a question or a comment, you can leave it here for me at the station. Call me on my cell, 414-499-2827, and we'll make sure we get you connected to the help that you need. And please mention that.
We have our crisis books here that help. I'm in crisis. There's a QR code. All of the stuff we talked about, we could connect through here through our webpage. We left with some of these.
Perfect. So we do have some here at the station.
Correct.
So people can stop by and pick those up if you like, or we can get you directly to the website. All right, family, that is the show for today. I want to thank both Jeremy and Mike for coming through. Milwaukee County, you guys continue to show up in ways that are helpful and necessary. And so this partnership is appreciated. And to the team, Jermaine, your hat was fly this morning. Not the one he has on now, y'all.
I got one in the oven.
That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound right at all. Oh my God. Clark, welcome back to the city.
Yes.
And family, I will talk to the rest of y'all tomorrow. Peace.